Other engine controls that we have would be kind of secondary engine controls for special conditions. We have here on the bottom an oil cooler shutter. This engine is air and oil cooled, so we have a gauge on our instrument panel that tells us oil temperature at all times, and you can control the amount of air flowing to the oil cooler to control your oil temperature. Up here is carburetor heat. Old-fashioned carburetors, especially in airplanes, have the potential to generate ice by condensing water out of the air as it flows through the carburetor, and that can choke down the engine and cause it to stop. So we have a control here that lets us direct engine exhaust heat into the carburetor to melt any ice that's building up. Finally, we've got a fuel control valve here. This airplane has 2 fuel tanks, one in each wing, 60 gallons in each, and you can select with this handle left tank or right tank or a reserve position, which is actually just the last 17 gallons in the right hand tank. Typically the airplane burns about 20 gallons of fuel an hour. Each tank holds 60 gallons for a total of 120. So a typical maximum flight plan would be 5 hours of flight with an hour of fuel reserve. Most of us are even more conservative than that. Besides, 5 hours is a long time to sit in this seat. A lot of times we plan for 3 to 4 hours for a cross-country flight before we stop and refuel. That covers everything on the left-hand side of the cockpit except for this big red handle here. And passengers are always interested in that because it's red and big and noticeable. That's actually your mechanical fuel pump. The engine wings, of course, are low wing in this airplane, so to get fuel from the tanks into the carburetor, you need a fuel pump. The engine drives a mechanical fuel pump when it's running, but until it's running, you have to have a way to fill up the carburetor so you can start it, and that's what this pump does. The pilot just pumps up fuel pressure with a hand pump fuel where it needs to be until the engine starts running. And once it starts, it will pump its own fuel and pull fuel and air through the carburetor and keep running.